What's up, everybody? Thanks for being here. Very excited to be here. I wanted to come here for a long time. A lot of my friends who are chefs have cooked here, and I always kind of felt left out. So I'm glad that I got an invitation to come here. So today I'm going to make a version of carnitas. This is from my new book, Bobby Flay Fit. I have a new book coming out in just a handful of days, and it is about sort of eating health in a healthful way, and just living a healthier lifestyle. You know, as a chef, I get asked all the time how I stay in shape, and so I figured it was time to write a cookbook about that. And so today's dish is actually a play on a classic Mexican or Southwestern dish called carnitas, which you've all seen carnitas tacos everywhere. And most of the time, it's carnitas are cooked with a pork shoulder which has tons of fat in it, and then they fry it at the end and make it really crispy, which is always a good thing, of course. But I'm going to actually make a much simpler version of it, a healthier version, and one that actually you can cook in a very quick amount of time. So here's the deal. So we're going to make the pork carnitas. It's going to have a pomegranate and chipotle glaze on it. And we're going to make some guacamole, which is, I think, the recipe that you guys are all actually going to take away and then use more than anything else. But that's okay. I mean, that's how I cook my food. I make things I make one component at a time, and then you can sort of mix and match them. They don't necessarily have to all go together. But in this case, they will. We're going to make some pickled red onions. I'll show you how I make those as well. Now, usually when I make pickled red onions, like if you watch Bobby Flay, I make a lot of pickled red onions for garnish because they're crispy, they're tart, they're sweet, they can be really pretty. And a lot of times I'll just use like some grenadine and some vinegar. So you want something acidic, and then you want something sweet. In this case, we're going to use some lime juice and some water, and then some cane sugar. They tell me that cane sugar is better than processed sugar, so we're going to use that. And you just put this on the stove, and then you bring it to a boil. And once you get it to a boil, it's ready to go. You don't need to reduce it down. You don't need to cook it for a long period of time. You just want to have that solution to pour over the onions. And the way I cut my onions for this is I cut them very thinly in sort of half moons. So we're going to just take the peel off. And then, very carefully, you just want to slice half moons of the onion, just like this. And the great thing about this is, like when you pickle jalapenos, you can use the same. You could use the same recipe, the pickling recipe, for anything that you want to pickle. You can pickle jalapenos. You can pickle some cauliflower if you want, some carrots. It's really up to you. Pickled vegetables have become obviously really, really important. I'm finding that in my restaurant, like at Gato, people are basically eating fish and vegetables these days. I mean, it's amazing how many vegetables we have. In fact, the number one dish is a kale and wild mushroom paella, and it's a vegetarian paella. And we've been open for it will be 4 years in March, and every single night since the day the restaurant's open, it's been the number one dish. I would have never predicted that 4 years ago, that a vegetarian dish would be the number one dish on my restaurant menu ever. I mean, in fact, I almost didn't put it on the menu. I was like, this is never going to sell. That tells you how much we know. Nothing. Okay, so very thinly sliced onions. And we have a mixing bowl for this? This one? Okay. Found it. All right, so we put some onions in here. And then you just bring this to a boil, and then you just basically just pour this over. And as the pickling liquid sits on the onions, it will pickle the onions more and more, and you don't have to remove the pickling liquid at all. In fact, actually, I like to, I just put it in a mason jar, put it in my refrigerator. When I need some, I just take them, and it just preserves them, and you just have them for a long time. I mean, you can really go for, months and months, really, when you pickle a vegetable like that. So it's really cool to have. And usually, like in the beginning of the summer in my house out east, I usually pickle a bunch of red onions and I pickle a bunch of jalapenos basically for the whole summer. So when I'm making like fish tacos for my friends or even a dish like this, I know that those two components are already done. And that's, I mean, that's key to cooking. I mean, at some point, you as the cook want to get out of the kitchen into the table. So that's one of the ways I do it. Okay, so those are the pickled onions. We'll bring those back later to garnish. And now we're going to make a glaze for the pork. So as I said before, we're going to use pork tenderloin. And we have two components for the pork tenderloin. A spice rub. We want to create some flavor and some texture on the outside of the pork tenderloin. And then also a glaze. So for the glaze, it's going to be some pomegranate molasses and some pomegranate juice. So basically, if you reduce the pomegranate juice, you get pomegranate molasses. It's a much thicker, syrupy-like pomegranate juice, and it's very thick. So you can find this in, basically you can find this everywhere now. I mean, this has become a very sort of fashionable product in American cooking. So some pomegranate juice. And you can use cranberry juice if you can't find pomegranate juice, but again, obviously you can find that everywhere now. Some pomegranate molasses for some thickness, and then some chipotle puree. Anybody here know what a chipotle is? What? Mayo? You got to Google that, man. Smoked jalapeno. Yes. And you're speaking with an accent. Do you come from the land of chipotle? You're Mexican. There you go. So really, we shouldn't have actually let you raise your hand. But thank you for importing the knowledge here. That's great. So yeah, smoked jalapenos, and they're great. I mean, it's smoky, it's fiery, and I add this ingredient to so many of my dishes when I just kind of need something to wake it up. Chipotles are magic. They're really magic. Do you use them a lot? Yeah, they're fantastic. In some ways they've almost become a cliche. I mean, there's obviously a restaurant chain all over on every street corner named Chipotle, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to use this, because this thing it's so good. Okay, it's smoky, it's fiery, so it's gonna, and that's the thing that I like to do is I like to sort of counterbalance. Like if I have something sweet or tart, I want to add something that's a little sour or spicy, and that's the key to my food, where there's lots of flavor going on, but the balance is really the key. So in this case, you have the tart and the sweetness of the pomegranates, and then you have the smoky and the fieriness of the chipotles, and then when this cooks together and becomes like a nice glaze on the outside of the pork. So you think about it. You have the pork. The pork doesn't have a ton of flavor because there's not a lot of fat in it, but it's going to have the spice rub on the outside of it, and you're going to have the pomegranates and the chipotles glazing it. Good contrast of texture, good contrast of flavors. All right, so I'm going to let this cook. All right, now let's get to the pork. So 3 ingredients for the spice rub: some chili powder, some coriander seed, and then some cumin. Cumin is very powerful, so you just need a little bit. And then some salt and pepper. Actually, I need a little bit more because I got some pork there. Again, this is something that you can do way ahead of time. I have tons of different spice blends in my cupboard at home. It's like I have like the Spanish spices and the Moroccan spices. At this point, I forget what's in them. It doesn't even matter anymore. So I just pick one and just take one and just season it, season whatever meat or fish I'm using. Okay, good. All right, a little bit of canola oil. Now, a lot of people ask me why I don't cook with olive oil. I use extra virgin olive oil all the time, but I never really cook with it. I have 2 kinds of oil in my cupboard. I have canola oil and I have extra virgin olive oil. I use canola oil to cook with, and I use extra virgin olive oil not to cook with. So I finish things with extra virgin olive oil, like a piece of grilled fish that has a nice spice rub on it. Just needs a little bit of moisture, a little splatter of extra virgin olive oil. It like becomes a sauce for you. Extra virgin olive oil is very thick. It's very viscous. And if you cook it, I find it becomes bitter. Not every cook and chef agrees with me, but that's how I feel about it. When I'm cooking something, I want something very light in flavor and in texture. And that's why canola oil really works. I don't want this pork to taste like the oil. I want it to taste like pork. That's just my philosophy. Not everybody agrees. Giada De Laurentiis and I fight about this all the time. I mean, seriously, because she thinks extra virgin olive oil from Italy should be used on everything, no matter what. whether you're cooking it in a pan or using it for a dressing, whatever. And so, you know, she's like, I would never cook with canola oil. Okay. So, true story. That's what we debate about. Okay. So some spices on the pork. Just going to mix this up. You want to make sure it gets distributed evenly. A little more spice. Now you can really smell the cumin. So cumin is like, if you're not familiar with cumin, it's a spice that you'll find in lots of Latin cooking, lots of Cuban cooking, Mexican cooking, South American cooking, and it's very earthy. It almost has like a musty flavor, but a little bit really goes a long ways. Like when I cook beans, I put a little cumin in it. It really kind of wakes it up, but sometimes if you put too much in, you can overpower it. So just be careful with it. Same thing with the chipotles. They can hurt you for sure. All right. Now you see my pan is starting to smoke a little bit. That's exactly what you want to see. Let me move this out of the way. And we're going to put one layer of the pork. Now, this is a very common mistake for a home cook. They have a lot of pork. They pour it all into the pan. And what happens is it starts to steam it as opposed to saute it. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that every piece of pork is touching the bottom of the pan. We want direct heat. If I have pork on the bottom of the pan and then pork on top of the pork, what's going to happen? It's going to create steam. And then the pork is just going to steam. We're not going to get that nice crust on the outside. So basically, the way to do it is you have to be patient and do it in batches. And you don't want to crowd the pan too much. You want to give it some room. Because otherwise the same thing will happen. And I always give a little extra salt and pepper. That's the other thing. I mean, you know, the difference between a professional cook and a home cook with seasoning is that for the most part, not 100% across the board, but for the most part, the thing that I see the most is that a home cook is a little more timid in seasoning. And in my kitchen, I'm constantly saying to my cooks, did you season it on both sides with salt and pepper? Did you put enough? Because that's the basics of cooking, is seasoning the food first. It's amazing when I go to restaurants, I'll go to a good restaurant, and I'll notice that they're not even seasoning the food. Like, the food looks beautiful, it's fancy, but there's something just missing. And a lot of times, it's just simple salt and pepper. That's where you need to start. All right, so we're going to let this cook. You guys have any questions? We're going to do the questions now, or? Yeah, hi. Yeah, you have to use the mic.
Hello.
Hi.
When you say a pinch of salt, how do you know what a pinch of salt actually is?
That's a great question. And I'm really the wrong person to ask because I just go like this. I mean, a pinch is this. So you take 3 of your fingers and your thumb. And I use kosher salt. So and kosher salt is, you know, it's large granules of salt, right? So the right way to season, I won't put more in here, I'll just do it over here, is you take it in your hand. So this is a pinch, all right? There's your answer. So I don't know how much that is. And you crush it in your fingers. So as you're crushing it, you season the food. And then you season from up here, not here. Because if you season close to the food, you're going to just get you know, pieces of salt in particular places. If you're seasoning from up here, you'll distribute it much better.
Thank you.
Sure, good question. I wasn't ready for that one. So now you can see the pork is getting nice and crispy and crusty on the outside. I don't know if you can see that. But you want that. You want that nice crustiness on the outside. And pork tenderloin, it cooks very, very fast. So the one thing I don't want to do is overcook it. And you know, the days of cooking pork till it's completely destroyed is really over. You want to cook it around medium. A tiny bit of pink inside is totally fine. You want to keep some of the juiciness. So then we're going to take some of our glaze. That's all right. So we're going to take some of the glaze. So that, remember, the pomegranates, the chipotles, and the pomegranate juice. I'll use some of this. You just pour this over the pork. This looks good. Just give it a quick turn. And then that's basically just about done. I'm going to take a little bit of cilantro. Coarsely chopped. And you always finish at the very end with the fresh herbs. You put the fresh herbs at the very, very end, almost like right before you serve it. So I'm not even going to actually mix this in. I'm just going to leave it sit there. And then I'm going to start working on the guacamole. Any questions before we go forward?
How do you know that the meat?
Well, in this case, it's going to cook really quickly. So I mean, if you were cooking a pork tenderloin, you want to make sure that it was like what's the safe 155 for pork tenderloin. So a meat thermometer, which I barely ever use because I use this method, which it's just experience. But really, you should test it. So at 150, 155, you should take it out and let it rest because it's going to continue to cook until it's stone cold. So that would be.
So I usually cut meat open when it's on the stove, and I feel like I'm letting out the flavor.
Yes, they're not doing that right. Yeah, I mean, if any of my cooks take a knife and put it in the steak to see if it's done,
my husband doesn't know any better, so we're good.
Yeah. You just cover it with some sauce. Listen, that works too. Don't worry about it. I mean, all of a sudden, it's sliced steak, right? Anyway, so yeah, I mean, a meat thermometer is really the way to go. Okay, so we're going to let the pork rest there for a second. Now, we're going to make some guacamole. So you want your avocados. Obviously, when you go to the store, the avocados are never ripe. I mean, it's crazy. You have to dig. I mean, I've had like, it's almost like silent wars at the avocado stand. Because you know the person's up there and there's like 2 ripe avocados out of 400. And like you get it and like they look at you with a dirty look. Here's the thing. You have to dig underneath the avocados because a lot of times what happens is the avocados on the top aren't ripe and the ones that are being covered by the light are actually ripening quicker. So when you're in Whole Foods or wherever you're shopping, just make sure that you go through the bottom and look under the bottom because you'll definitely find some ripe avocados. You cannot make guacamole with avocados that are not ripe. It's just not good. I mean, it doesn't have the right texture. It doesn't have the right flavor. Guacamole is one of those really sensual things, I think, and the avocado is the most important thing in guacamole. Okay, so we have ripe avocados, which is nice. I didn't have to go digging for them. And so what I do is I slice around the big sort of pit in the middle. And then I take the bottom of my knife and I just very, very carefully put the bottom of the knife in the pit and I turn it, okay? And this way the pit's out. Now, don't do this. You have a thumb right here. Let's go like that. I've seen some bad accidents that way. It's not fun. All right. So then, with the avocado on the cutting board, we just make like diamonds in the avocado in the shell. How many people here put garlic in their guacamole? We're gonna have a fight. I'm really a guacamole purist, and I'll show you how I make the guacamole. I mean, this is the recipe I've been using basically for my whole life. I don't like garlic in my guacamole, but obviously a lot of people do, and that's totally fine. It's just one of those things that you either do put it in or you don't put it in. I don't, and I like a really clean flavor. You have a spoon? Yeah. Oh, here's all my ingredients. Can you hold that? Okay. Okay. All right, so I take the sort of pre-diced avocado, just drop it right in. Does anybody here make their guacamole in a food processor? Thank you. You know there's somebody and they're like, oh, I'm not reading that. That's avocado puree. We don't want that. Texture is so important when it comes to food. I mean, I always say it's really simple. Good food is about great flavor and contrast of texture. And in this case, I'm going to show you how to continue that. So, all right, so we have some cilantro. We have some red onions. We have some serrano chilies. Serranos look like a jalapeno. They're a little bit more tapered. They're a little bit spicier, but they have a good pepper background flavor. That's why I like using them. You can easily use jalapenos, no problem. Sometimes when I'm lazy, I take the jalapenos in my refrigerator, the pickled ones, and I put those in as well. They have a lot of flavor, but this is a really kind of fresher way to do it. So some serrano chilies, and I don't take the seeds out. I leave the seeds in. That's up to you. I mean, it will be a little bit spicier with the seeds in. That's okay. And then some lime juice. And you guys know this trick, right? You roll the lime to get the most amount of juice out of it. Okay. Coarsely chop some cilantro. And then I throw everything in at the same time. I don't mix after each one. And that's a mistake that I see a lot of people doing. And then you're going to ruin the texture of the guacamole. So some chilies, some cilantro, some fresh lime, some red onion, and then some salt and pepper. Pinch of salt or two. Some pepper. And then I just take a fork. I got it. And I just kind of mash it down a little bit and fold it together just until all the ingredients are incorporated. Taste everything you eat. Maybe. They're not tasting this? I want to know, because if they're not tasting it, it's perfect. It's a little spicy. It's got a right amount of salt. I mean, you're looking for all those things. Does it have enough acidity? If not, a little squeeze more of lime. It's definitely got some heat to it. I can taste the serranos. I can taste the red onions. And most importantly, I taste the avocados, and you can see the texture of it. That's it. And that's because I only mixed it one time. So you get you put the avocados in the bottom, you put all the ingredients ready to go on top, and then you just kind of fold it in, and then it's done. Okay, so we have the pork, we have the red onions, and we have our guacamole. We can play, right? Any questions so far? Any other questions? Wow. All right. Get this nice, beautiful Google platter. Man, that is heavy. Now, classically, corn tortillas, not flour. Corn tortillas, or you could use flour. But again, if you want it to be a little bit more sort of fit-like, lettuce leaves. And I find the best ones are butter lettuce or Boston lettuce. Just because of their shape, they hold together, but they're soft at the same time. And then we just take some of our pork carnitas, and don't fill it up too much, just a little bit. a little bit of the guacamole. So you're getting the tenderness from the pork. You're getting that nice sort of smooth cooling effect from the avocado and the guacamole. And then the pickled red onions is going to add that crunch to it. Here we are. And then for garnish, some pomegranate seeds to reinforce the flavor of the pomegranate glaze. Maybe another cilantro leaf. And a squeeze of lime. There we go, pork carnitas. Can we hand these out or not? I promise you won't die. There's only 4 of them. This is like being at the avocado stand. I'll let you guys find it out.
I have a question to go back to the avocados. If you are unable to actually find a ripe avocado, how do you ripen it?
To ripen an avocado, you put it in a brown paper bag or something. Get it away from the light, and they will ripen. It doesn't take that long. A couple of days, and you'll have ripe avocado. It goes really fast. You guys didn't really share with your friends. That was it. Anybody else? Yeah.
My 8-year-old's like super obsessed with beat Bobby Flay.
Oh,
She's
really?
always wondering like, why do they all want to beat Bobby Flay? So she sent me a bunch of questions.
Okay.
I'm only gonna ask.
How many are there? Okay.
So what made you start cooking?
What made me start cooking? I dropped out of high school, so tell her not to do that. I dropped out of high school in 10th grade, and I needed a job, and so I went to work in a restaurant. I started out as a busboy, actually, for the first 2 weeks. And then I was offered a job in the kitchen, and I was like, okay. I mean, I was 17 years old. I had no idea what I was doing, but I fell in love with it. And then I went to culinary school after that, about a year and a half later. And I've basically been doing the same thing for 35 years.
Where'd you go to culinary school?
Well, it used to be called the French Culinary Institute on Grand Street on Broadway, and now it's called the International Culinary Center.
Nice.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. I'm really upset that they changed the name of my only alma mater. Anybody else?
Other than your own restaurants, what's your favorite in New York City?
I like Via Carota, which is an Italian trattoria right over on Grove Street. It's like it reminds me of like walking down the street in Rome and you getting lucky that you found this place. The food is very simple, but executed perfectly, and it's a place that I feel like I can go all the time. Via Carota, yeah. I shouldn't have told you that because now it's going to drive me.
Thank you for the taco. Super good. How long do you pickle onions for? Any pickling, jalapenos, etc.?
I mean, you should probably pickle them for at least a couple of hours, but then you just have them. You just put the whole thing in a mason jar and keep them in your refrigerator.
You don't want to use those though, because you just made them.
No, exactly. I use these. Yeah.
Got
But
it.
these were made when? All right. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But they're still crunchy. They're sweet. They're tart. They're good.
Thank you.
Hello. I have a question in terms of the oil you used. What about coconut oil? Because in high temperature, at least my whatever Google searches have said that coconut oil is a little better than because the way it breaks down. Or I don't know if that's.
I mean, honestly, I'm not an oil expert, but the thing about coconut oil is it really tastes like coconut. It has flavor. I like canola because it's a lot cleaner flavor. A lot of people I know use coconut oil and they like it, so that's actually a good oil to use. Grapeseed oil is another one that people use. Peanut oil also is one that can actually take very high heat. See, that's what happens. Is if you want to get your saute pan smoking to sear something, and you have extra virgin olive oil in it, it's going to make it bitter. And these lighter oils, coconut oil included, can withstand the higher heat without losing its integrity.
Thank you.
So besides going to culinary school, if you're someone who's interested in home cooking, what are your tips to improve your skills? Like, what's a good way to continue to get better?
Buy all my books. Look, you know, you have access, as you guys know better than anybody, you have access to so many things online. And in fact, like, you know, on Beat Bobby Flay, I get challenged to things that I've never done before. And, you know, I spend, like, when I can't sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm watching YouTube videos of dishes from, like, Ethiopia. I mean, I'm serious. Like, to see what they're like. And it really gives me it's actually way better than just reading a recipe, because you get to see how the dish continues to evolve as they cook it when they add the ingredients, and that's a big difference.
Awesome, thanks.
I mean, there's so much how-to online now. I mean, and there's no substitute for experience. Do it. And I always say to people, like, a lot of times people say to me, I'm a disaster in the kitchen. I don't know how to cook anything, but I need to learn. For whatever reason, they've decided this is the time. And I always say to them, you need 5 dishes. Like, figure out how to make a fish dish, a pasta dish, you know, a steak, a salad, something else. And then once you have those 5 dishes and you continue to make them over and over, you're going to get tired of making them the same way. Then it's going to force you to sort of start to add things to the dishes and move on to the next thing. But think about all the experience that you're getting making those dishes. That's the key. It's like when did you ask me how do you know when it's cooked? I know when it's cooked because I can look at it and tell you, but that's because I've had a lot of experience. The more you do something, the more comfortable you'll be.
Hey, that was a nice YouTube plug. I like that. But I was just wondering if there's any like city or small town that you've been to that kind of like surprised you with how good the restaurants were or the food was there. That's not like, you know, New York City where you have everything.
Cities?
Yeah, like a smaller city or something.
I mean, honestly, the food in this country is getting to be amazing everywhere in this country. I mean, it never used to be that way. You know, I was just in Albuquerque, and like what's going on there is amazing. Obviously, a place like Charleston has blown up already. Seattle, Minneapolis, amazing food there. Actually, one of the chefs, and this is what's happening a lot because of the economies of scale of opening a restaurant in New York, which frankly have become close to impossible. I mean, it's really hard. And a really great chef who was the chef de cuisine of Danielle for many years, his name is Gavin Kaysen. He did his time with Danielle. He got great reviews under Danielle, and it was like, okay, it's time for me to go. Now, most people would, at that point, find a restaurant in New York, a space in New York, get a partner, and they'd open a restaurant. He decided to go back to his roots in Minneapolis. That's why I thought about it. And he's killing it. And the economies of scale in a city like that work way better. And now there's an appreciation for good food, and people are willing to pay it for it basically everywhere in this country. That never used to be the case. But it took us a long time for us in this country to catch up to the rest of the world in terms of food's important to us. And I think that in most cases we've surpassed the rest of the world.
Thank you.
Sure.
So I was just wondering what you
I feel like you're going to challenge me.
No.
Because you just came at me like you kind of like squared off with me right there. Come on, what's the dish? All right, let's go.
I was wondering, like, when you cook at home, just like for yourself, how do you approach it? Like, do you try to make crazy things, or do you just like have a go-to dish?
Like bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. I mean, chefs cook for themselves really simply at home. I'm trying to think about like only for myself or for having a dinner party. Just for myself, I mean, it's really not much. It's really like an egg sandwich or something. I'm never home for dinner because I'm always in the restaurants or somewhere else. And I'm never really home for lunch. So it's usually breakfast, or like, if I've been out late and I've had a couple of cocktails and I want something to sort of quench my hunger, it literally is like a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. And there's nothing that's better. Ever. Hot sauce, boom. That's the truth. I could have said, yeah, I take a little foie gras and some caviar. That doesn't happen. Anybody else?
Saying that, did you get that, or do you want me to say it again? I remember that was one of the more difficult ones. What's like the most difficult beef Bobby Flay, or just anything that you've been challenged to make?
That was a tough one. Listen, when I get taken out of my wheelhouse, those are the best shows, because I'm stumped for the most part. But no matter what, I'm going to cook something. And a lot of times it's never an authentic version of it, because I don't know the authentic version. I'm making sort of what I think the dish might be, or sort of a play on it. So I think it was, I brought up Ethiopia because Marcus Samuelsson challenged me to the national dish of Ethiopia. I don't know, I don't remember the name of it. And so basically, and then somebody else, there was an Iranian dish. Yeah, it was, so those, and a dish like bibimbap, at least bibimbap is a dish that I like to eat, right? So when I go to a Korean restaurant, I'm always ordering bibimbap. So, I mean, I get it. It's vegetables, it's meats, whatever, it's rice. I know how to, it's not going to be authentic. So if somebody from, South Korea landed at the table, they'd be like, what is this? But that said, it's my version of it. And actually, I thought I lost the bibimbap one, but I was like, I think I have a chance. The other two dishes, I literally had no chance. I mean, I was just kind of like watching what they were doing, and I'm like, all right, chili powder. Okay, rice, saffron, great, and kind of like, and I just tried to make it taste good. That's ultimately what I try to do. And the culinary team behind the scenes who procure all the ingredients and everything, there's a guy there who says to me, he's like, the reason why you win sometimes is because you understand the yummy factor. So when the judges taste it, they're like, oh, this tastes good. And that's all that's the key, is that the judges don't see who made what. It's blind. They're only tasting the dish after it's been plated, and they don't know, and we're just standing there, so they don't know who made which dish. So I always know that there are certain things, like I was talking to you guys about before, where you combine like sour and tart and sweet and spicy and all those things that make you go, oh, this tastes good. So even if it's not authentic, if I can make it taste good and I don't know what I'm doing, I have a shot. It doesn't work out most of the time.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you recommend where to get good, fresh fruits and vegetables in Manhattan and maybe the Upper West Side?
What are you saying? You don't like where you shop now?
Yes. I think it's hard to find good, fresh fruits and vegetables in the city.
I will say that when you go to the West Coast, it's a lot easier. And, I guess that's just because of the place that we live in. I find that especially like in the winter, it's really hard to find fabulous vegetables here, just because it is what it is. In the summertime, I find it a lot easier. I mean, I probably shop where you shop. Where do you shop? How about Whole Foods? Okay, then go to Whole Foods. That's where I shop. The farmers markets in the cities are wonderful. Again, in the summer, they're amazing. In the winter, it gets a little. There's lots of potatoes, So I mean, but I think that Whole Foods does a good job. I really do.
What are you going to do with the rest of that guacamole?
Good question. But you need chips or something. We have chips in this place? Okay. Anybody? Hi.
What's next food trends? There was kind of Greek yogurt. What's the next thing that's going to hit supermarkets that will change a food category?
Oh, God. Any guesses? I don't know. I'm the worst at this. If I tell you what the next food trend is, you know it's not going to be that. What do you think? What's happening? I mean, yeah, beans are going to take over grains. Jennifer's my public relations person, so she knows more than I do about trends. But I think that we're going to go. I think in the big picture that we're going to continue to eat more and more vegetables, more fish, and meat's going to take a side dish position in the world. That's just what seems to be happening. And I think there's just going to continue to be more of a trend in that way. I mean, I feel like we've exhausted every food trend in every country in the world so far. It's amazing. I love Middle Eastern food because it's so beautiful and so healthful and so flavorful. I mean, I think those are the key things now. You want things that are good for you, that have a lot of flavor, and that are really pretty to look at. And I think that a cuisine like that, or Israeli cuisine, is amazing like that as well. I mean, when I order at home, I order from Taim a lot. You know that place? Oh, it's the best falafel in New York. But it goes beyond that. I mean, it's like Israeli cuisine, and it's so good, so helpful. Pomegranates are everywhere. Anybody else? I know that wasn't helpful, but I don't know.
On the food trend topic, is there a current food trend that you're just so sick of? If you see a certain dish,
Poke bowls. I feel like poke bowls. Here's the thing about a poke bowl. What has to be great about a poke bowl? The fish. So I know that there's all these fast casual environments doing it. I get a little concerned about that. I don't want inexpensive poke bowls. You know what I'm saying? That's just my thing. And they just came on so strong out of nowhere. It's crazy. I mean, I know obviously in Hawaii, that's where it transcends from. But that was my answer. I don't know. I'm not going to say kale. I want kale to stay here forever. It's so good. I mean, when I go to a kale salad, when I go to a restaurant and order a kale salad, I feel like I should not be ordering a kale salad, but I really want it. It's so good. I love that black kale. It's so good. Anybody else?
What is the last thing you Googled?
What was the last thing I Googled? I have to think. I can't remember the last time I Googled something. No, I know. I use it all the time, as everybody else does. You just put me on the spot. I can't remember. I'll think about it.
All right, I'll follow up with
you. Follow up. No, Elise sent me the address.
You were just speaking about pomegranates. Do you have a trick or a really great way of cutting one open?
Yes. Did I forget to do that? Is that what you're telling me? Okay. So I cut it open like that. But the way you get the seeds out, I think that's what you're asking, right? Okay. An easier way to get the seeds out is you take a wooden spoon and you put a little bit of pressure on the pomegranate and you just whack them out. And this way you don't have to pick through them. When we were kids, we used to eat these in grammar school. I don't know why. But we called them Chinese apples. That's what we know them as. There you go. And some of them go in the bowl, some of them don't. You're very welcome. I'm sure you didn't know how to do that.
I have a question for you. So growing up, I've watched a lot of your shows, a lot of your different shows, and even getting older, like continue watching your shows. And being in this environment, I've had a chance to meet a few famous chefs, and including yourself now. And so I wanted to know, are there any chefs that you grew up watching that inspired you to continue to cook and to try to be better? I know you said since high school, yes.
Well, you have to understand that, like, I was like Food Network TV and I were born together. So there was no Food Network before I was cooking. I was already cooking professionally, and then Food Network showed up one day, and I've been there for 22 years. So, you know, Julia Child, the Galloping Gourmet. Do you know who that is? You know, you know, his thing was really cool. He would make this gourmet meal, and it was always sort of French inspired. And he always had like this cool jacket on, and then he'd go up and he'd plate the meal, pour a glass of wine, and he'd have a little table for two, and he'd go out into the audience and pick whatever cute girl he wanted to pick, and take her by the hand, and he'd finish having dinner with her. I mean, it was really kind of sweet, actually. You know, that was the show that was Julia Child and the Galloping Gourmet. That was really it. You know, Emeril really led the charge. He was on every minute of the Food Network for so many years, and I knew Emeril before he was Emeril. You know, I mean, we basically grew up together in this business. But you know, I think the first celebrity chef that I really knew was Wolfgang Puck. I mean, he kind of, in my opinion, like changed the way we think about food in America now. He took food that was whimsical and made it incredible, and made it fun for people who go to a restaurant to eat great food. So you didn't have to go to like some stodgy old place to eat good food. He was the first person to like take pizzas and put like smoked salmon and duck sausage on them, and people were like, "Wow, you can do that?" He's like, "Yeah, you can do that." And I always find it amazing to me because it took an Austrian guy to show America how to cook, you know, good food. But it's the truth. I mean, Wolfgang is amazing, and continues to be. I mean, you know, some people say like he's got restaurants in airports and stuff like that. Yeah, but so what? I mean, when you go to his restaurants, like in LA, he's there all the time. I don't know how. He must be 10 of him. He's always walking around in his chef white. He's got his towel over his shoulder. You know, he comes up to you. He sounds like Arnold Schwarzenegger. What's up? And he cares so much about what he does. He's a true leader of our industry. Yeah.
You said that you and Food Network were born together. How did Food Network find you? How'd you get started?
Look, you know, Food Network was a startup cable network, and you know they had no money. So the chefs that were actually being asked to fill the time, so to speak, you know, if you couldn't get there by subway, you weren't coming on the network. I mean, they weren't flying people in from like California or anything to do that. They had no money. So, you know, it was a 24-hour network. They had a lot of time to fill, and so I started guesting on different shows as a guest, and then I said, you know, I think you guys should do a grilling show. Like, you don't do anything grilling. They're like, what do you mean? I was like, well, here's a list of recipes I think we could do. They're like, you have a name? I'm like, yeah, how about grilling and chilling? And they're like, all right. I'm not kidding you. That was the extent of the meeting. And then we shot 42 episodes. It was me and this guy from Philadelphia. He was like the country guy. I was the city guy. We like beat each other up like verbally, you know. Kind of fun, like banter and stuff like that. You know, anyway, like he would say to me like, I'd be making a sauce in a blender. He's like, I don't use fancy equipment like a blender. I'm like, okay, you know. Anyway, so we shot 42 episodes in 6 days, 7 a day, live to tape. And that's why, like, when I shoot a cooking show now, I can shoot, if I really wanted to, I could shoot 5 in a day. Because I basically shoot live to tape. There was no editing in those days. You had to hit the marks to go to commercial. So they didn't have the money to edit. Literally, there was no editing. I remember when they're like, we're going to start editing, I'm like, what? And it was like years later. It was like 5 or 6 years later. I did television live to tape basically for the first 6 or 7 years of my career there. So when I do a cooking show now that has editing, like I'm doing this new show with Damaris Phillips called Bobby and Damaris, very original name, and it took us a long time to figure that name. And she was like, "This is the fastest I've ever done a cooking show by tenfold." And I was like, "Well, how long does it take you to do a show?" She's like, "We do like a half a show a day." And I just don't see any reason for it because they're trying to be so perfect. So when you pick up the pomegranate, they're like, "Can you pick that up again?" No, seriously, that's what happens. And I go, "Okay, well, what did I do wrong?" "Well, I just didn't like where your hand was." Who cares? Like, you're cooking. And I think part of it is like when you overshoot a cooking show, you lose the guts of it. Because like if I make a mistake, it makes the viewer feel better. Who cares? Right? If I burn something a little bit, or if I spill something, oh good. If you spill something, stop down. You got to clear the whole thing off. Bring in the more prep, right? It's insane. It's totally nuts. I don't shoot that way. So like I can shoot 3 shows, 4 shows. We can start at 8 o'clock in the morning. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm having a beer. But that's and then it feels real, you know. You want to have your own cooking show? Well, yeah, but what would the theme be?
Well,
Come on, pitch me. This is it right now.
meat eaters going vegetarian, like something. My perspective. You can have it if you want.
No.
I don't think I have the caliber to execute right now. Nick.
What's your last name?
Gomez.
Nick Gomez. All right. So Nick Gomez. The show is okay. So vegetarians were meat eaters.
Yeah.
Okay.
I always eat meat, and it's like the basis of everything. As a kid, I would push away the vegetables, and I would grab for the chicken, and now the trend is vegetables and eating healthy, and the meat is hard to set aside, but trying to make vegetables that I actually want to eat.
So the show would basically be like you'd have like a big juicy steak over here, and you'd be like, all right, just stay there, and then you come over here and saute some zucchini and convince people that's what they really want to eat.
Like make vegetables good enough to eat for someone who didn't want to eat them in the first place.
No, that's a good thing. That's absolutely. Should we give him a show? Yeah. All right. 8 o'clock tomorrow. Cool.
Everybody help me thank him for coming.